Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf, CHULLIN Chav Beis. We begin 12 lines from the top, right in the middle of our discussion here. So, we may recall there was a brisa yesterday where, at least according to one opinion, when the pasuk described the process of hakrava applying to a oila bird with the term kamishpat, as has been said, as has been established, according to one opinion, it was a reference to the way we process a chatus behema, an animal carving. And we're deriving three halachas. We're comparing it regarding, number one, how to fund it. That just like a chatus behema has to be funded using private funds. You can't use, Maser Sheni money. Likewise, over here by the oila bird. Number two, a regular behema, a chatus behema, has to be processed during daytime. Likewise, over here. And thirdly, just like a chatas is processed using the kohen's right hand, same over here. So we're going to analyze these three halachas and clarify the sourcings of these halachas. Says the Gemara, chatas behema, de'ein bo el min chulin. So we're making this premise that chatas behema has to be funded using chulin money. How do we know that's true? Amar Chisda Makro, look at the pasuk by Yom Kippur, where Aaron, the kohen gadol, brings a chatas, and it's privately funded. V'yikrev Aaron as parachatas asher loy. It has to be funded privately. Mishal loy, using his money, loy mishal tzibur, as opposed to public funding. Loy mishal masa, as opposed to maser sheni money. We learn from here, a chatas has to be privately funded. You can't use maser sheni money for that. Right? That's the halacha. Anything that's obligatory upon a person, he can't fund it using maser sheni money. Okay, the next halacha b'yayim, just like the chatas is brought by day, likewise the oila bird. Says the Gemara, why do we need a special, source? We have to go compare it to the chatas behema. Just like over there, it's only processed during daytime. Rashi brings the pasuk kibayayim hazeh yichaper aleichem, has to be by day. Every carbon needs to be processed by day, because the pasuk says b'yayim savaisai. That applies to all karbanis. B'yayim savaisai nafka. That's learned from b'yayim savaisai. So we know that the oil itself needs daytime b'yayim savaisai. Kadin asma. You're right. Truthfully, b'yayim savaisai provides a source for all karbanis, and the brisa just brought it along, added it to the list as things that are learned from achatas, because really, it has its own source. Next halacha, the third halacha, was yoda yemanis. Just like a chatas is processed using the kohen's right hand, likewise the oila bird. Says the Gemara again, why do we need to go to chatas to learn that? We have a local source. Midraba bar bachana nafka. Let's learn from there. The Amar Rabba bachana, Amar Shmuel Lokash, Kol makam shenemar etzba ikehuna. Wherever the Torah mentions a kohen as part of the process, or the finger, the word etzba, it means the right. Ein eliyamin. So likewise by an oila bird, Rashi says, Ksiv kohen, it says the word kohen, Vikrivya kohen. That automatically indicates that he has to use his right hand. So we have a local source for this halacha. Why do we have to go to chatas? Says the Gemara, V'idach, because there's an opposing shita, which is reflected in our brisa. The other shita holds, it's not so simple. Kahuna by etzba. Etzba lebei kahuna. You're right. When it says etzba, it means his right hand, even without a reference to kohen. But the word kohen on its own doesn't necessarily mean his right hand, unless it's accompanied by etzba, which you don't have by the elasayif. It only says kohen. That necessitates us looking for another source, and by comparing it to the chatas, where it says etzba, which confirms that it's his right hand only, we now learn that oila soif also has to be processed in a similar fashion. One last question is, If you recall yesterday, there was a shita where Rabbi Shmuel, who learned that the malika, the precise location of malika, which is mimul oirav, the area at the back of the neck, which is the area next to the back of the head, is the place to do the malika by the oila bird. Even though there is no explicit pasuk with that term by the oila bird, we compare it to the chatas bird where it says it clearly. And that's learned from Kamishpat. Now, with Tanakama, who uses Kamishpat for other things. For Rabbi Shimon, likewise, who uses it for something else. So how do they know this comparison? How do they know that malika by an oila bird takes place at the place called Mula Oiref, like by the Chatas? They don't have a pasuk to compare them. Gamri, Malika, Malika. The answer is, even though there's no explicit pasuk for that, they make a comparative equation. It's called a Mamatzina. We find Malika here by the Chatas, we find Malika by the Oila, and we assume it's one and the same process, or at least very similar, at least in terms of location. Just like the Malika of the Chatas is Mimul Oirav, same with the Oila. Continues the Mishnah. So we pretty much continue on that track of contrasts. So we had that Mishnah of the other day, if you remember, that compared the location of Shechita to where you do the Malika, right? Two sides of the same coin, two sides of the neck, right? So the Gemara in the next Mishnah and the following Mishnayos will likewise present all kinds of contrasting equations, things which are sort of two sides of the same coin. For instance, birds, carbon birds. The Torah describes two different types of birds that can be brought as a carbon. Toirim, one type is called toirim, another type is called b'nei yaina. And here we're going to learn that age is also a factor at play. Toirim are only acceptable when they're older, when they're mature, fully grown. Whereas b'nei yaina, just the opposite. They're only kosher when they're b'nei yaina, little pigeons. So if the ben yaina is too old, it's possible. Likewise, if the toirim are too young, they're possible. So that's that direct contrast again. Kosher b'toirim, the older bird which is acceptable if it's a toir, possible b'nei yaina, would not be acceptable if he's a ben yaina, is too old. On the other hand, a little birdie, kosher b'nei yaina, which is okay for ben yaina, possible b'toirim, would be premature if he's a toir. Now what if it's somewhere in the middle? His feathers have begun to yellow, tchilas hatziyuv, the beginning of the yellowing process. So it's not yet mature, but it's no longer a little baby. Bezeh bezeh, either way, it's possible. It's nishtahi nishtaher, it's no man's land, right? For ben yaina, you have to have a young one, and for a toir, more mature. This is somewhere in the middle, so it can't be used for either one. Tana Rabbana says the Braisa, toirin, if you choose to bring a toir, toirin is the plural for toirin, for a toir. Gedolim, when they're older, ksherim. They're okay when they're older. Gedan, ketanim, they're still undergrown, they're psum, they're not acceptable. B'nei yaina, they're just the opposite. Ketanim, ksherim, gedolim, psum. Okay? So by the toir it has to be gedolim and not ketanim, but b'nei yaina, ketanim, ksherim, gedolim, two oldest psulim. Nimtza, so it turns out, kosher b'toirin, what's acceptable if it's a toir, i.e. the older one, is pasul if it's a b'nei yaina, pasul b'nei yaina. On the other hand, kosher b'nei yaina, the little ones, which are kosher b'nei yaina, are pasul b'toirin. Tana Rabbanan. Where's the source for this? Toirim, the type called toirim, gedolim elektanim can only be brought fully grown as opposed to undergrown. Shiachal perhaps, v'leidinu. I can suggest otherwise. I can suggest that even little toirim are okay. We turn to the days. Why? Umab b'nei yaina, shaliach shur b'gdolim. Because since by b'nei yaina, which can't be gdolim, the pasuk clearly describes them as b'nei. B'nei means ketanim, says Rashi. Shaliach shur b'gdolim, that can't be brought large-sized. Hoch shur b'ketanim, nevertheless you can bring them small-sized. Certainly the toirim that can be brought large-sized. Shaliach shur b'gdolim, wouldn't you agree, ain't a din that you can bring them small as well? Shaliach shur b'ketanim, tamaloymar. Comes the pasuk and says toirim. Toirim means big ones, large ones. Gedolim b'lo ketanim. How do we see in the word Torah, large and not small? The Gemara later will tell us. Now we turn to Bnei Yaina with the same type of suggestion. Bnei Yaina could only be brought as Ketanim, small. But like they were not big. Perhaps I can suggest otherwise. Since by the term which are not acceptable when they're small, can be brought big, but that can be brought small. Of course, they can be brought big. And then, wouldn't you agree? You can bring them big as well. Comes the pasuk and specifies b'nei yaina. Torah says Torah u b'nei yaina. B'nei yaina means little ones, little guys. Ketanim like that. Says the Gemara, my Talmud. Now, fine, it says b'nei yaina, but how do you know that it's critical? Fine, you can bring them small. But who says it's ma'akev? Who says you can't bring them big? Ma Talmud amarava. Take a look at the entire Chumash. You never find the Torah describing them as just yaina. It always puts the word b'nei yaina connected to them. Amarava l'shtamit. Kra. Why would the Torah sort of ignore, so to speak? Never mentioned. There never switches around the reference. You'll never find it's saying B'nei Toirim. It's always B'nei Yaina. It's always Toirim B'nei Yaina. Hence we know that Yaina is only kosher when they're small. Okay, says the Ma'ema, but we can still insist. B'nei Yaina, the Kasabu Rachmana B'nei. You're right, by Yaina, by the pigeons, where it says B'nei, without fail, we know conclusively Ketanim in, small ones work, big ones don't. But by the Torah, maybe both work. Yeah, the Torah specifies B'nei by the Yaina, but by the Torah, it just says Torah. So Torah can be large or small. Torah, perhaps Ibai G'daylam, Lice, if he wishes he can bring ones. Ibai if he wants, Ketanim Lice, he can bring small ones. Says the Gemara, it's not probable because it sort of goes together. Dumya de B'nei Yaina, since the pasuk sort of pairs them up, we compare them. One size only, per type. Ma B'nei Yaina Ketanim in G'daylam, just like by the B'nei Yaina, we've just concluded. Small works, big don't. Av Torah, likewise, the Torah is always sort of contrasting them. These only small, and these only big. Av Torah G'daylam in, Ketanim loi, big ones, yeah, small ones not. Tanu Rabbanon. Yachal yu kol ha-toirim v'chol b'nei hayonik ksherim. So once again, perhaps you can use all the toirim and all the b'nei yaina. Which means to say like this. I understand that the toirim have to be big. And the b'nei yaina have to be small. But what about if it's in the in-between stage? So the Torah have already grown out of their infancy, but haven't yet fully matured. And B'nai Yaina are still not yet fully grown, but they're sort of no longer little midget ones. Can you use them? Perhaps all Torah, once they're no longer Ketanim. All B'nai Yaina once, as long as they haven't yet fully matured, perhaps they're Ksherim, Talmud Loimar. Comes the pasuk and rules this out, specifies min ha-Torah, v'lo kol ha-Torah, only some of them, not all. Min b'nei hayoina, v'lo kol b'nei hayoina, only some b'nei hayoina, not all. So the pasuk reads like this: it says v'yikrev min ha-Torah, or min b'nei hayoina. The extra min on both sides is coming to rule something out. Prat is coming to rule out the tchila satziyuv, beginning of the yellowing season. So once the b'nei hayoina start maturing to that point, or if the term had begun but haven't yet fully changed colors, shabazeh or shabazeh, whether it's the term that haven't yet fully matured, just yellowing slightly, shabazeh or the b'nei yaina, which have begun yellowing, they're already out of their infancy, shapasl, both cases are pasl. Oh, mimasa term shem. So at what point can you use the term? What's considered fully mature? Mishiaz hivu. It goes into the goldy reddish zone. It's a fully grown, fully changed colors. Then you know you have a fully grown Torah. Rashi says, "Shehei kanfei gufan," the feathers are gdolim, large size, vadumim, ashivim, kazov, reddish, goldish. On the other hand, meimasa bnei yoina psulim. At what point do you say that bnei yoina are disqualified? Mishatziva, once the yellowing begins. Okay, so the bnei yoina only kosher before they start yellowing, and the Torah only kosher once they achieve this goldy hue. Tani Yaakov Karcha. So Yaakov Karcha presented a brisa. It must have been ksherim. At what point? What's the earliest stage that the bnei yoina are acceptable? How young can they be? And they're ready. Mashiach alu. Once they get to the point of Ya'alu, what does that mean? Hu tani la. So he presented the brisa and he explained. Amram explained based on the pasuk in Eiv. And the small birds Ya'alu dam. So you see, the Ya'alu is connected to the blood supply. Once the blood starts to circulate, once there's a blood presence, that shows that it's developed enough. What does that mean? At what point do we consider that to be? The test is when you pull out a feather, it starts bleeding. So it's developed enough to the point that's acceptable as a carbon. Here comes an interesting question. A person pledges an oila bird. Of course, he has both options. He can bring Toirim or Bnei Yoina. He says, look, either way, I'm pledging a pair of birds, whichever I decide. Okay, I'm not nailing myself down. Either way, I'll decide. I'll bring either Toirim or Bnei Yoina. Okay. Behavior. Now he brings two pairs of birds. A pair of Toirim, which are meant to be older, a pair of Bnei Yoina, which are meant to be younger. But here's the catch. They're all beginning to yellow. They're in that in-between interim stage. So Bnei Yoina are a bit older than they should be, and the Toirim are a bit younger than they should be. Ma'u, what's the status here? Has he fulfilled his pledge or not? What are the factors here? So although we spoke about the yellowing not being acceptable, Sveika Havi V'Nafik, is just because of uncertainty. We're unsure whether the yellowing stage is considered mature enough or not. We're not sure. So in this case, he covered both bases. Because look, he brought Bnei Yoina that are yellow and Toirim that are yellow. If the yellow stage is already considered to have achieved level of maturity that is kosher for the Toirim, so the Toirim are good. If it's not, if yellowing is still considered undergrown, considered katan, so then the Bnei Yoina are kosher. So either way, he's covered. Again, he promised a set of birds. He said, I'll choose, I'll decide. Either Bnei Yoina or Toirim. Either way I can fulfill my obligation. And he brings both sets, and they're both yellow. So whatever yellow is, he covered something. If the yellow is katan, so the Bnei Yoina are kosher. If the yellow is gadol, so the Toirim are kosher. That's one way to look at it. Sveika Havi V'Nafik. Or you can say, no, it's a new breed. It's a new stage. It's not katan, it's not gadol. It's sort of in a transition stage. Right? So you can't bring either a Toirim or Bnei Yoina in that stage. It's a new bria. New category. Well enough, and you can't fulfill your obligation in this manner. Amar Rabba Tashmal says, Rabba, I'll prove the point from the brisa we just had. Now in the pasuk, Min HaToirim, Min Bnei Yoina, we learn Prat L'Tchilas Hatzir Shebzev Shebzev that the beginning of this yellowing stage, Shebzev, whether it's the Toirim or Bnei Yoina, Shepasel, it's pasel, and that's learned from the pasuk. Now, Yemas B'Shleim Bria Havi Shaper. If the yellowing stage is considered a new status, a new stage, that would explain why the pasuk has to go and explain to rule this out. That this doesn't work for either Toirim or Bnei Yoina. Pasuk has to come and inform us of that. Eli Amras Feika Havi, but according to the other approach, that it's just a suffix. We're not sure how to define it. It's one thing or the other. We're not really sure. So the pasuk has to come speak about this. The pasuk has to come and rule out a suffix. Meaning, if we're uncertain about it, if we have a doubt, you can't bring it. Even without a pasuk. I mean, you can't do something on account of doubt, right? Why would I say it's okay? You don't need a pasuk for that. So if it's a plain simple doubt, it's an unknown, there will be no need for a pasuk. The fact that there's a pasuk indicates that it's not just a question of doubt. It's a status, it's a category, it's a stage, which the pasuk addresses and says, look, this stage is not acceptable either way. Whether for Torah or Bnei Yaina. So basically this fellow has to go get himself another pair of birds. Continues the Gemara on Chav Gimel and Aleph. No, perhaps you can say that it's just a suffix, and really this fellow that brought both options would be okay. Regarding the pasuk, maybe the main lesson of the pasuk is not for the not to address this interim stage. Pasuk is mainly coming to teach us to exclude, to disqualify birds which have experienced sin. They were tampered with by humans. Neva, they were nirba, they were interacted with. Nevad, they were worshipped. And although the Brisa did mention something about disqualifying the yellow birds, that's just an asmachta, says Rashi, just a support. It's just like a hint in the pasuk, but primarily the pasuk is coming to teach about other things. Now, why would I think that a bird is different? Why would I say that you can bring these blemished birds? I mean, by animal korbanos you can't. We already have a pasuk, right, that you can't use an animal that had experienced sin or that was worshipped. Perhaps a bird is different. Perhaps I would think the pasuk describing the blemishes, the physical blemishes that disqualify an animal korban, mentions mashchasam, hashchasa, destruction, and mum. V'tander b'shmuel. The Brisa Bishmuel explains that the pasuk is speaking about physical blemishes and also spiritual blemishes. Wherever we have the term hashchasa, destruction, what's the ultimate destruction? Immoral behavior, idol worship, einoy elam, dvar erva, avez gechav. It's referring to those two activities, arayis and avez gechav. Where do we find that? Dvar erva, we find arayis referred to with this term. The chsiv by the Mabel, it says ki hishchis, right? Hashchasa, hishchis basa, kabar sardak l'oretz. And they were involved in these types of sins. Likewise, avez gechav, by idol worship, we find the term hashchasa, the chsiv. Moshe Rabbeinu warns our nation lest we stray to the idols. Pentashchisum, right? Vasisim lechem pesel. So, since in the discussion of mumin, of physical blemishes regarding animal korbanos, the Torah makes reference to spiritual blemishes as well, such as arayis navidazora. So perhaps they're comparable, they're connected. Kol shamum poisel by a korban, where a mum disqualifies it, like a behema that's missing likewise these spiritual experiences will do him in as well. Dvar erva was involved in arayis, interacted with humans, it disqualifies the animal from korban. But a bird, which isn't susceptible to physical blemishes, it doesn't disqualify it. Generally, it doesn't disqualify a bird from being brought as a korban. But a bird, which is unaffected by physical blemishes regarding its ability to be brought as a korban, perhaps it's unaffected by these spiritual transgressions as well. Ein dvar erva, perhaps arayis navidazor doesn't either disqualify him. And regarding these birds, since they're immune regarding physical blemishes, if physical blemish does not disqualify it from being brought as a korban, or as we learned, tamas v'zachus behema. Only a behema susceptible to issues of tamas, of blemishes, of the requirement to be a tam, to be unblemished, and also the gender issue of zachrus by a behema There are differences between different types of karbanos. Some karbanos need to be zachar, some nekeva. But by a bird, we don't have these factors at play. By birds, there's no tam requirement. Gender is not a. Likewise, the type of gender is not a factor either. You can bring even a bird and a cave as a korban. So perhaps it's unaffected by Eimad var erva v'tzkichavim namila polislubu. Arayis and Avodazar don't either adversely affect the bird. Kamash Malam comes to pasuk by us and says min ha'torah min bnei hayona min Torah min bnei hayona, disqualify a bird which had interacted with a human, whether it was nirva or nevad. Okay, so we're pretty much left hanging regarding our question. We know the yellowing stage is unacceptable. Is it just because it's a suffix, or is it an absolute stage which is unacceptable? And the difference would be by this fellow who brings both options, Torahim that are yellow, B'nai Yana that are yellow, in fulfillment of his pledge. Was he Yitzir or not? So we sort of left it unresolved. Okay, let's recap today's daf. There are several halachas that I learned from the Chatas Behema. Mishal CHULLIN, Bayoim, Yada Yimanis. Regarding a bird korban, there are two options. Is Torahim, Bnei Yana. Torahim have to be older, Bnei Yana have to be younger only. And regarding the interim stage of Tziyuv, that would be unacceptable either way, but we're not sure whether it's just a suffix or it's a new stage which is disqualified from Hakrab. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha.